Hey, everybody, welcome to the third episode of the Back to Truth Foundation podcast. I'm really honored to be here speaking to anybody who's out there listening. We're just getting started, so it's been pretty cool to see how fast things can grow when I actually put work into it. Um, so I'm trying to be as consistent as possible and get content out there and just share because that's really what it's all about. The Back to Truth Foundation, the Back to Truth Foundation mission, for those of you who are, just hearing about us for the first time. Yes, I say us because it's not just me. There's a team of people involved. And what we're doing is I'm working as a shaman and somebody who has experience in a variety of spiritual traditions, mostly dealing with Lakota ceremony and um, Buddhist practice, although it's been on my own. It hasn't been with any sort of group really, except for I have been involved uh, to a degree with the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, which has a lot to do with Hanuman here, the monkey god. I'll talk about Hanuman in another episode. I've been doing satsangs as an ambassador to the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation. Satsang is a spiritual community, and it has to do everything with these topics, with Hanuman and the whole tradition there. So it can be, if the first time you're hearing about it, it can be a little bit strange and maybe a little shocking, but it's a beautiful tradition, and I think that you people, a lot of you out there, are gonna really love it, be interested in it. It's about the heart, yoga of the heart, bhakti yoga. It's different than the Krishna walk of bhakti yoga. This is more of like household, uh, not so much rules, but at the same time, it does have the option for each individual within it to achieve moksha, or enlightenment, what have you. So, the Back to Truth Foundation mission is to share spiritual tools with as many people as possible, as many people that as are wanting to learn about it, as they're interested, of course. And I'm also studying as part of this effort. I've gone to school to get a degree, which is something I never thought I would do, and I'm working as fast as I can towards a degree as a licensed clinical social worker, which basically is like I thought I was going to be a psychologist, like to do therapy is basically what I want to do. So the mission here will be that we will also provide uh, psychotherapy in different forms of psychotherapy when I complete my master's degree from the University of Maryland, and uh, and we have a lot of other projects going on to get healing, enlightenment, empowerment, a lot of great stuff out there to our community, and to just be another gathering point, maybe virtually, sometimes in person too, whenever we can, as much as possible. We should always strive to. Um, it's to be a beacon for that, for community, and for a catalyst of community. It's very, very important to the Back to Truth Foundation mission. So we've been doing these podcasts. Episode one was done a long time ago. It's about America the Beautiful, and it has a perhaps it's my take, I guess, on what the perspective of the Native Americans, at least some of them, the ones that I've been involved with, um, have of Turtle Island, of North America. Um, the vision that they have of it, which is something that I think all people can feel, and I go into it in that episode. It's on my YouTube channel. You can, and on my podcast channel. Please, check it out. And always, you're supposed to say right at the beginning, subscribe, share, like, comment, all those things. Even if you want to, get into a debate or talk about something or share your own views or just give a shout out, whatever it may be, we are happy to hear from you. And it really, really, really helps this small but powerful channel start to grow and become a big and more powerful channel with all of us. And so there's a lot more great content coming. Episode 2 is also available. It's about the humbly ceremony, which is often called the vision quest. But humbly means something a little different than that. Crying gently in the night for a vision is how I translate that. And this episode, I wanted to talk about what I call the 4 levels of the game. And this is something that I will be talking a lot more about. But um, the the game should be understood as reality, basically. To get right into it, it should be understood as reality, and reality has an aspect of it. Let's say 2 aspects to simplify. This doesn't have to be an absolute truth, but it's just to help communicate this view with you. If you're here listening and so willing to play around with it and see what you think, um, to take this view for a moment where what has been my investigation and my experiences, I'll get more into as well. Um, there's the human society world and there's the world. There's the human reality and there's the reality. And I say the human reality because it has to do with society. Humans, as I've said before, and I'll say again, are social beings. In the same way that fish are aquatic creatures, we are social beings. Fish don't know they're in the water because they've never been out of the water, or so it's said, and or at least they don't know the water in reference to other things. We could say for sure, so much. If anything could be said for sure, but whatever. And so we are that way too. It's been said that consciousness, instead of being social, I would say that's true, but that's a different topic that we'll get into a little bit later. For now, the important point is that we are social creatures in our core, in our essence, in everything that we do, in the way that we think. And now, within humanity, within our society, there are, we could say, divisions of people too. And these divisions have a lot to do with consciousness more than anything, with internal factors of a person's spirit, of a person's choice, of a person's will, of a person's own conglomerate or whatever you want to call it of power, their own soul, whatever you want to call it. We could go on all day trying to come up with words, but I think you understand the point, intuitively at least. So that's the important thing. Um, so this game, I call it a game too because, well, I've spoken about the drama, the drama of Leela, the great show, the Maya, the illusion, as it's in Pali and Sanskrit and Hindi and in the Indian um, worldview, religious, spiritual worldview specifically. There's this stage, which is the world, because God is this thing that's not a thing, it's beyond words, it's beyond concepts. God is beyond concepts. And then it projects into existence, we could say, a reality where it has a form that's like a formless form, a formless, maybe a spirit, something that's difficult to understand, a mystery, perhaps. Um, a mystery because we don't really know, but not something that we could say a mystery like there's the mystery. It's that thing. This is a mystery in my hand. Um, but we don't even know, is what I mean. Just totally a mystery. Of course, there are things that we can know within this great mystery, which is part of why it's such a great mystery. but it's never solved. It continues to be a great mystery. A great mystery, not a bad mystery either. It's not something that needs to be solved. And that's, why Socrates was considered by the oracle of Athens to be the wisest man because he went around saying that he didn't know anything and showing other people that they didn't know anything either. Or at least they didn't know what they thought they knew. This is very, very important because clearly we're not all at all times aware of the fact that this is a game, that this is a drama and a stage, and that truly we are all incarnations um, of it, of God. So that's what everything is, an incarnation of God. There's not anything that exists that is not God. It's not that God couldn't do that, like as a challenge, like if God wanted to. It's just like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? If you're God, why would you do that? It'd be pointless. So again, this is important to understand. Like even concepts such as spiritual, or I'll even say enlightened, which is one of my favorite things. Um, there's a big difference between the word and the concept and the reality, and also the non-reality of it. So Jimi Hendrix had this album, the Axis Bold as Love, and that album I always use as an example, the album cover, because it's such a perfect example of how it's like a take on classic Indian, what's called Hindu, although that's not the real term for Indian religions, because there are many, many religions. It's not just Hindu. Um, that's a name that was given to them by foreigners who invaded their lands and tried to understand their culture. Maybe not that. Maybe they didn't try that hard. Anyway, um, the it shows, well, it has Jimi Hendrix as the head of this incarnation, which is fine because it's not really a matter of so much all the time of importance of who's at the head at any one given moment. It's that all of these heads, which go on forever and above and below and to the sides, all around, and the background, the room in which all of the space, or whatever you want to call it, of is it a space that's open or is it a room that's finite? Who knows? It's really hard to say. And I'm not trying to be wishy-washy or get out of this. I've been I could say I've been there, but we're there right now is the thing. So awakening is like when is part of awakening is seeing this, experiencing this, not just thinking about it or trying to see it, but actually going there or being here, fully present for once in your life, which is why we do things like we meditate and we pray and we do our ceremonies, whatever it is for you and for me and for everybody. We go to church, whatever it may be, synagogue, mosque. We pray, we dedicate. Could be the yoga studio. The library could be. That's up to you. Whatever it is for you, but it is. It is. It could be the art studio for some people, like my wife. That's where she finds that purpose, that meaning is in art, and it's a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons why I married her. Um, that creative power, the power of creation, so important. It's good. It's good energy. I'm not going to call it good though, as a definition. But anyway, that's a tangent. Just because it includes everything. So it is a game. It is a game because, for example, in that video I did, it's a short video, just like 2.5 minutes or something, of Shiva and Kali, who are two very misunderstood incarnations of God, who come at the end of times to destroy human society, and then they do it in the dance called the Tandava dance. I think I said that right. The world is destroyed in the dance of the Tandava, and Kali comes in a form of Kali comes, as I understood it, and consumes all of the evil of humanity. But then as Shiva turns to leave the stage, the divine stage that is this world, this reality, on the back is Brahma, who is like the creator, the engineer, head of God. So there's three basic divisions in the Hindu thing, which is like the formless that you can't name, the formless that you can see and experience and name, the form of God, which would be like the supreme being, which perhaps is consciousness or something more, a little bit more concrete, a little bit more concrete, like a real thing, so to say, um, a nameable thing, at least, an understandable, you can understand it in concept. And then like a figure, an incarnation like Krishna, and then from Krishna, all the other incarnations. This is one way of looking at it. I'm sure there's others. One way of understanding it. And there's Brahma and I don't know all the names, of course, but there's a female partner to each of these males, and each of them have a light aspect and a dark aspect, or a wrathful aspect, we should say. Uh, it's not there is like evil and demons and things, but that's not really what this is. Like Shiva and Kali are not demons, although they are often misconstrued that way in our culture, in Western culture, in Judeo-Christian culture. It's an unfortunate misunderstanding, and they are sometimes represented that way by people who misuse their images, which further justifies that misunderstanding. But anyway, the important thing is that it's a show, it's a stage, it's a game, it's a dance. Leela is the word they use in the sacred scriptures out that way and out over yonder, and they it means like the dance, like the sacred dance, pretty much. Same too in Lakota with the ceremonies. We have the sun dance. It's the most important ceremony, we could say, of the year for us, um, for the Lakota. So it's a game, it's a dance, and the way I'm going to talk about it today is as a multiple dimensional chess game. And there's these different levels of the game. There's this. I said there were four levels, but there's actually a couple more. It might be like five or six. Um, we'll see. But so what they are is, a lot of people will think that like the highest level is enlightenment, and that is there's not really a highest level, so to speak. I wouldn't say there's a highest level. I would say that if you are limited to the first couple of levels, then you are limited. You are definitely limited to, you're not experiencing reality. Reality includes much more, much, much more than what that type of person is experiencing. And that's like the definition of somebody who's asleep. So, but becoming awakened is, sanam, reaching the other levels, seeing the other levels. It's not like you've reached them, it's more like you see them for the first time. They were always there, you were always there with them. All the worlds are happening right here at once. All the different worlds. So there's the level of the game that's the human world, like I was explaining. Let's say that's the the first, the first would be, I guess, the natural world. There's the natural world. In fact, I'm going to add that right here. That's important. There's the natural world, um, that exists with or without humans, that humans are part of in essence. And then there's the level of the game of this multi-dimensional chess game. That's the human world, and this includes all forms of society, from small interpersonal relationships to family to community to country to the world, to all these different forms of socializing that we have, and politics. And the everyday experience, the everyday happenings of people all over the world. Then there's the level of the game where there are beings who are non-humans, who are influencing nearly every human. Most of these beings are um, parasitic or microbiotic or probiotic. You know, they live in our gut. They live all over and within our body and in the air and the food. A lot of them, some of them are parasitic, and some of them are don't have bodies. Some of them are spiritual entities. They are parasitic and they are predatory, and they don't have their own biological bodies, but they feed off of energy. They feed off of our energy, all the energy that we produce from emotions are a type of energy, and each emotion is a different one, a different type of that emotional energy. Uh, the experiences that we have are giving off different kinds of energy, and they influence us towards certain experiences that are convenient for them, and we are their hosts. And most of us, um, part of awakening is also like a deparasitation. I can't say that word, but you know what what I'm trying to say. Uh, Too complicated for me. They don't pay me enough to say words like that. uh, I'll learn it, and then you can pay me some more, huh? Got a deal? All right. Anyway, so this has been spoken about not just by me. This has been spoken about by other influential, far more influential than myself, spiritual speakers and authorities and so on and so forth and all that sort of thing, and not just spiritual people, but all kinds of people. Um, so they, I really would like to go more into those entities. Perhaps I will during, if not during this podcast, then I certainly will in future podcasts and in future publications texts. It's going to be in my upcoming book, The Night I Got Enlightened. So there's um, these entities that I'm talking about, the biological ones and the non-biological ones, the spiritual ones, influence our our health, our physical health, our mental and our emotional states, and therefore our actions. And our actions also, retro elements, retro feed um, that loop, that cycle. So, and that's part of why when they say that the average person, that throughout the day, throughout our lives, we are in us, our brainwaves are fluctuating and coming, or whatever the right terminology is. Our brain activity happens at a rate that is very close to just being asleep. It's far too slow to actually stay in the present moment. We're actually always a little bit behind the present moment in that biological, physical body sense. However, we do have more than one body, each one of us. In a lot of spiritual traditions, you're supposed to, earn your rainbow body or your light body or your spirit or your astral body from a certified, and not certified perhaps, but a recognized authority, a recognized teacher. Some traditions, shamanism tends to be more of a solo gig. Like you initiate yourself, you become initiated yourself. When you become initiated, you are recognized by other shamans as someone who is initiated. Um, but it's more of a solo and an informal thing. But nonetheless, it's the same. Enlightenment is enlightenment, whether you're in Spain or France or Portugal or wherever it might be. So the other levels of the game board, shall we say, this multidimensional game board, these other levels are including states of our bodies where we are faster, we think faster, things happen faster, time goes faster, as far as we're in realms of the game where there is time that moves, because not all of the realms have that sort of feature. So, so the energetic level, which we could perhaps call hyperspace. Thinking of people like maybe Terence McKenna, who was certainly quite familiar with interdimensional travel and so on, directly direct experience with it, plenty of experience he had. Um, Interesting body of work, useful, helpful, worth checking out. Difficult to understand, very easy to misconstrue, and he actually tries to get people, in my opinion, to misconstrue his work and to misunderstand him and to not like him, rather than to get people to idolize him or um, misunderstand him in in other forms, in other ways that might be more grave. Okay, anyway, so this realm is where the things are, I would say things are happening so fast that the distinction between solid and physical and non-solid, non-physical, of light, of waves, of undulations, of energy, particles, sometimes light waves. It's not really quite clear at this level, and you're still able to experience the universe and things that are in this universe, but it's a different sort of experience. So this light energy from hyperspace is actually like the fundamental uh, thing that constitutes this world, this universe. Since it's projecting, this is a projector, it's projecting this reality, is being projected. Um, this energy, when we're in just the first couple levels of the human world, seems to be the most subtle. We almost never notice it. Most of us never ever do notice it throughout our lives. Sometimes it gets noticed in spiritual experiences and things like that. So in this realm, there are separate entities um, where they go about seeking their own aims. They have their own lives, so to speak, and some of them do interact knowingly with humans that try to influence the human world. Some of them do it unknowingly. Some of them don't do it at all. Then there is the spiritual level of this game, where the movement of different separate entities is still separate, but it's within ever larger and fewer conglomerates of amoebas of beings. Uh, I would call these souls. I think this is what souls are. Some souls seem to incarnate to project themselves onto this plane, this human world level of the game, as different beings all at the same time through different points of history and time. It doesn't matter because all time exists in one eternal moment, as you experience when you are enlightened, or perhaps before. What's up, puppy? Come on in here, dog. So then there's the enlightened level of the games. A little bit after the spiritual level of the game, there's the enlightened. Hey, puppy, come up here, sweetie. Come up here. You're so cute. You're so cute. I want to hug you when I see you. I want to hug you. Can I hug you? You're so sweet. So there's the enlightened level of the game, right? Right, my 10? This is my 10, everybody. This is my 10. She's smiling. I don't know if you can see that smile on camera, but she's so cute. She's so happy. He's such a happy dog. Anyway, I love you, Wicked. I love you. I love you. Okay, hey, I'm doing a thing right here. You can hang out, but let me talk. So, good dog. So, dog kisses. You want some of that? So the enlightened level of the game is where you now are actually, I just realized that there's a level before the enlightened level of the game, another one that I left out. I'm going to add real quick here to my list, and while I explain it, that is the God level of the game, where God is in a body of sorts. I'm not saying it's a human body of any sort. I'm not saying it isn't. And yes, I do know whether it is or isn't. I have seen it. I have been there. That's why I'm talking about it. And the goal is for you to get there as well too. So this God level of the game is where God is. And so there's you, the spiritual seeker trying to become awakened, enlightened, whatever. And there's God. So like you're pretty darn close because if you want to become enlightened, and there is the light, because God is the light, all of it, all of the light. And that's what you see when you see God. You see, but God is omnipresent, so God is everywhere. So that's this weird thing that happens, which is what is the enlightened level of the game, which is very difficult to understand. It has to be experienced, I think, almost to really, get it. As does probably everything. But um, at the enlightened level of the game, you have now maybe been flying through God, which is at the same time the entire universe and the earth and all the people and beings that live in the universe and on Earth mostly, and they are you. It's all you. You have been flying through it, but then all of a sudden you realize it doesn't make sense for you to be flying through it, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. So what is that little space where you say it's you? You say it's me, and it's not God. Like what? That's sacrilegious. Don't you understand? That's sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious to not declare yourself God if you actually understand it. It's extremely simple. Um, but people are very humble and they have a hard time with that, and that's a beautiful thing. That's not at all a problem. It could be a problem if they like come to my house with, you know, torches and pitchforks, like want to kill me or something my because of what I'm saying. Like I'm anti whatever it might be, but I'm definitely not anti whatever it might be. I'm totally pro whatever it might be, probably, but maybe not. Check with me first, and don't kill me. Anyway, so it takes time to really live in your own flesh the implications of this of enlightenment. I'm not going to say the experience of enlightenment or of this enlightenment or anything like that. I'm just going to say of enlightenment. That's important to point out. So there you go. Now, I told you enlightenment is not the final level of the game, which may be surprising for some people. Hopefully, it's surprising for some people that to learn that enlightenment is not the final thing. Um, I call the final layer level of the game uh, of story mode of the game. Now it's like a multi-dimensional chess slash video game. I don't know if you followed that. It's getting more complicated here, so follow along. You got to keep up. Um, so that the the Bodhisattva level of the game. This is basically the level where you've come back. You've gone. You've left everything behind. Buddha left. He was Siddhartha Gautama. He was a prince. He was the son of a prince. He left he was the heir. He left everything behind. He had, I don't know, wives. He had a wife and he had harem or whatever. He had everything he wanted. He had and that was because his father wanted to keep him for the throne and keep him away from suffering, lest he, develop some sort of hippy dippy bent, which unfortunately that's unfortunately for his father, but also very auspiciously fortunate for his father and everybody. He did go out and he did see suffering, and then he tried to solve the problem of suffering, upon which doing he became awakened. He became Buddha, which is that's the title meaning awakened for a person who becomes awakened. So the man named Siddhartha Gautama became Buddha. He became awakened and went back to his family and became a responsible father, husband, and community member afterwards. only afterwards. So we could say that actually he was a bodhisattva because he was a Buddha too, but a Buddha really implies a person who attains enlightenment. It does, a bodhisattva is generally has become. I don't think originally it meant this. I need to investigate more, honestly, but from my investigation thus far, bodhisattva really refers to nowadays, at least, a person who comes back from enlightenment. A pratyeka Buddha is a private Buddha, as I learned from Alan Watts's lectures. I believe is the series, the Out of Your Mind series from Sounds True. Fantastic series. I listened to it repeatedly for many, many years. Um, really, really influential. Very, very important. Can't stress that enough. How important Ram Dass and Alan Watts have been. Ram Dass with the Bhakti Yoga tradition, Alan Watts with a lot of traditions, mostly Zen, um, but not at all limited to Zen or Buddhism. Anyway, he taught me that in that series that the the Pratyeka Buddha, the private Buddha, is also sometimes called like a stone Buddha. It's like a statue of a Buddha because it's a person who got the enlightenment for themselves. This is the auspicious medicine Buddha. And just, coming to the end here, but I want to get as much in here as I can. And just remembered a pretty crazy anecdote about this piece that I'd like to talk about. Um, and then I'll close with closing up a bit about the bodhisattva level of the game. And I like to call it challenge mode. Like on the video game, after you beat it, you beat story mode, then they give you the option to uh, the game programmers give you the option to end here and start again, or to enter challenge mode. On some games, they would have that. They have that. So that bodhisattva mode is like challenge mode because you become enlightened. You realize that you are everything in existence, all time, all places, and everything within and without, forever, never, 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 blah blah blah. That's being Buddha. That's being enlightened. That's being God. That's what it is. So like that's just what it is. It's that simple. Uh, and it's a great thing that it's like that. Um, so you feel probably pretty amazing, probably like more than pretty amazing, probably impossible to describe how amazing it is. Um, like beyond. I don't even want to. I want to say God's orgasm. I'm sorry, but that's like the initial part is like God's orgasm, and God's orgasm doesn't last a mere few moments. It lasts like a long time, a really long time. Maybe, you know, depends on you, could be all night, could be all your life, who knows? But could be all eternity. But in real terms, in actual terms of what people have experienced and reported on, what I have experienced and what I'm reporting on, it's beyond that. It's the greatest thing ever. And there's no problems there, and you can stay there forever. You can just be God. Um, you already are, but you can like have that experience of being God for the rest of until as long as you want to, I guess, because you're God and everything is God and everybody's God. Or you can come back to challenge mode, to bodhisattva mode. You come back, and when you come back, guess what? Guess where you're at? I was. I'll come back to where you're at as I tell this story that I said I was going to tell. Where so many years before becoming enlightened or anything like that, I was just becoming interested in new ways of thinking, new ways of being. Uh, because I was smoking a lot of bud with my spiritual buddy, who eventually got me into the ceremonial, you know, community. I'm really eternally grateful to him for that. And shout out if you're listening, buddy. I don't want to say your name, put you on blast, but he was a great influence on me. And a friend from around this time, a friend from early childhood had been, we'd been in touch a bit, and he'd been getting really heavy into Buddhism, and he was also into like the whole LGBT. This is going to take a turn. The LGBT thing at his school and at his campus in the university. I don't know if he's gay or if he was gay or what. He was living with his girlfriend at the time, so I don't know what was going on, but we were buddies, and he um, he invited me with his girlfriend and a friend of hers to drive. He was in New York, and he invited me to go with those two girls to drive up to New York to meet him. He was finishing up a retreat, a silent meditative retreat. This is a religious uh, Buddhist. This is a monastery. This is in the mountains in New York, in a beautiful place, very remote. This is not a secular thing. This is a religious thing. And I didn't really know. To me, Buddha was like about being free and being calm and being peaceful and smoking bud. Buddha, bud. I thought it was connected. Rappers called Buddha Bud, so there we go. Called Bud Buddha, So I listened to a lot of rap in those days for some reason. Just expanding my mind and my horizons and um, my consciousness, my understanding, both culturally and musically and spiritually and consciously in many, 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 many ways. So anyway, uh, I went with them. The plan was to meet up with him as he was finishing his retreat, pick him up from the retreat, and go into the city where we would go to a museum and spend the day, get some food, do the like a little bit of tourism. And it was the Museum of Sex, if you must know, which I don't think is relevant to the story, but just to be completely transparent. Yeah, that's why I mention it. It was the Museum of Sex. I'm not kidding. Pretty small museum, kind of disappointing. Mostly like a glorified sex shop that calls itself a museum, I guess, to attract tourists. But good idea. Anyway, good business model, perhaps. I don't know if they're still there. Anyway, uh, so we get to the temple after a long, long drive. We are in the mountains, and we I'm wondering if we're lost because we've been in the mountains on a dirt or gravel road for quite a while, not seeing anything. And then all of a sudden we turn right onto a long drive going up towards the parking area of the meditation center, the monastery, temple, where I think it's a monastery. And as we turned right, I noticed that it was snowing. It just started snowing, or it had been snowing. But I looked behind out of the window behind us where we had turned from. It was not snowing. It started right there. And so we went up, parked, and it was dark by the time we reached. It was not dark when we turned onto the path. It was still a little bit of light. But as we reached the parking lot by then, it was dark. And we went into the temple where they were finishing up their silent meditation. A room of people sitting on the floor facing two teachers who were sitting up on some elevated meditation teacher seats of some sort. Very, very fancy, huge tapestries of like really intense colored Buddhas with fire, intense images, very, very intriguing. There were all kinds of things. That's like the one that sticks most out to me now in memory. Like from floor to ceiling, these things were huge. It was a beautiful, ornate building. And we were like, the main room is here, and we went in, and instead of going into the main area where everybody was, we went off to the side. So there's like a little, some chairs and a table and stuff, waiting area or something. So we waited there, and we were whispering and stuff and take shuffling around a little bit. And they came out to, they actually sent my friend out the second time to scold us for making too much noise. I thought we were being pretty quiet, but it was apparently they could hear. So we went into the, at their recommendation, into the gift shop while they finished up their, very smart, very smart, while they finished up their meditation. And now, I felt a little bit bad. So I felt like I should buy something from their gift shop. And I'm looking around, and they have a shelf with, amid millions of amazing things. I wish I could have bought everything. Now I wish I could buy everything. And they had a shelf with a bunch of statues of deities and Buddhas of different forms. And this was the first time that I really understood that there are many different Buddhas. There's many different forms or incarnations of Buddha. And I chose one that, they all kind of had like a little, like an as Asiatic face to him, which I do not have an Asiatic face. And but I tried to choose one that looked like me, that I like, because I'm me, I'm the best, if you ask me. Uh, so I chose this one. I had the price tag here. It was like $8 or something, and I just like saved it somewhere. I realized that it was something, once I bought it, that it was something valuable in a sense beyond money, in a sense of something existential to all of us as humans, to me as a person, to me as a human. And I saved it for many years. I didn't take off the price tag or anything. I didn't know what I was going to do with it really. I kept it around, but mostly kept it stored away. And I'd lost sight of it for many years, but it must have been in one of my things. And many, many, many years later, I was out at the ceremonial grounds one summer. Um, I believe it was after the Sundance had already happened, and there were some volunteers hanging out, some young people. And I'd been, the reason why I went to this, for those of you who don't know the story, the reason why I went to this place to begin with was to learn Native American medicine and ceremonies. And through this process, I started to realize that I was actually being trained to be a medicine man, and that became clear to me. It was clear to me before going there, but it became clear to me now that was a real possibility. Before it was what I wanted to do, but it was a dream that would never happen, and now it was actually happening. It had been manifested. I'm not going to say I manifested it. I think I was part of it. I don't think I was the only one. In another sense, there is only one. So there you go. Anyway, I've been there for, this was now my second year, and it's been very intense experience, a lot of ups and downs. And those downs, man, those were brutal times of serious confronting myself or being confronted, and by life, not by people so much as by life. Sometimes people being used by life to teach me, and wise people teaching me on their own accord as well. Of course, everyone is my teacher. So I'd been there, and these young volunteers. This is when I met my now wife. Then she was my somewhat steady girlfriend, becoming my somewhat steady girlfriend, and I wanted to keep that going. And was very insecure about the whole thing. My first relationship, after a couple of years after having had a really traumatizing breakup that really messed me up. Um, and I really wanted to keep things going with her. She's like a fun-loving, sociable person, and so she wanted to go to this concert that everybody was going to, this big reggae rock concert that was going to be up at Red Rocks venue in Colorado, a very popular venue. A lot of big names were coming. puppy. A lot of big names are coming to play reggae there. I think Revolutionary. Excuse me, little doggy. And so I didn't really want to go because I was more of like a monk at this time. But it was important to get the girl and to keep the girl, as they say. So you know, worked myself up to it. And while I was waiting in my car, also because I had one of the two or three cars available for everybody in the group, um, as I waited in the car for everybody to get ready and get in, I suddenly came across this little statue, and I took off I was gonna put it there, like before everybody got there, I was gonna put it on the dash or something and fix it there so that I would look really cool, and people would think like that I always had it there, and I like was creating this story in my mind that it was like my very important Buddhist statue that I got from a great Buddhist teacher or something that I always traveled with because it was so important. And so I thought like of the word auspicious, and I pulled off the little price tag there, and it says auspicious medicine Buddha, who is also very closely related to Shiva, who is the Lord of Ganja. So this was a moment for me for sure. The way things worked out like that. That was a definite message from the big the big thing. I don't know why I'm pointing up. People point up when they talk about it, but there you go. Anyway, to finish up, so a couple years actually later that same year, because shortly after that, we got married. Actually, I did keep the girl. Still married, as of today. Still married. See how tomorrow goes, but as of today, I'm still married, and uh, I spent all my money trying to convince this girl to stay with me. It was a very foolish thing to do. All the money I'd saved up or earned over the years, I wasted it all in that one summer. I guess I didn't waste it, but I spent it all in that one summer on outings and trying to be cool and hotels and gas and little gifts and just trying to act like I was a big shot, bigger shot way bigger shot than I really am, which is not a big shot at all. Uh, in case you haven't noticed, but the things got worse from there. We things got really good and really bad at the same time, I guess, because we stayed together. We met up. We split at the end of the summer. I went back east to start working, get some money, and I felt like my welcome was up at the ceremonial grounds and for that point, and I wanted to keep that door open for ceremony, so I left. And she had already had plans. She's from Chile, but somehow magically she had plans to travel to Alexandria, Virginia for art classes, like very close to where I was going to be, where I had grown up in Maryland, um, like Silver Spring, DMV area. And so we met up there. I'd been working and I got fired. It was really, really, I've never been fired before or after, but I got fired. That was very hard for me. I don't know. I cried, actually. I really was trying to get money and couldn't understand it. The boss tried to be like, teach me like a life lesson, but he's kind of a dick, actually, to tell you the truth. Anyway, um, she was staying at my parents' house and we got kicked out because we slept in the same bedroom together. My little siblings were in the house. My parents told us several times not to do it, but we had been sleeping together already, so it was like hard to not sleep together now. She was in the basement and I was up on the third floor. And it felt weird, so we slept together, which also felt weird. And my mom and dad made a big thing of it. They went out of their way to catch us in the bed together in the morning, and say that we were out, that we had to go. And then later she saw me smoking out back, smoking ganja, and that was like the final straw. She wasn't putting up with that. So she said, "Get out, you're out. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." This was November of 2014. It was the coldest November in almost 100 years in Maryland. It was already snowing by this time. Um, and we were in my car. We slept in my car for about 2 weeks. We were in the car waiting for some kind of opportunity of where to go. Freezing cold, trying to avoid the police, trying to get something to eat. The car was breaking down. Um, I bought it used from a neighbor, family friend, and it had a weird thing going on with the brakes, and it was just getting worse and worse. And I'd spent the last of the money I had when I got back in fixing it, $750 to fix the brakes, and then it broke again like a week later. So maybe a couple of weeks later, and then I didn't have money to pay to fix it again. You know, fix it. Pretty sure the guy just broke the other brake liner. I don't know what happened, but it was unfixable. Ended up selling it for like $200 or something, for $120 or something for spare parts. Got totally ripped off, but hey, at least I got something. And we eventually went woofing, which is the Worldwide Opportunities in Organic Farming program. You should look it up, woofing.org, I think it is. It's probably a different URL depending on what country you're in. Um, but it's got great opportunities to learn in real life experience about organic farming. This is how I met my wife. She was a woofer. She came to the ceremonial grounds as a volunteer, for the gardens and other activities that go on there besides the ceremonies. She was also interested in the ceremonies, which is why she requested to come there in the first place. This is very common. It's how my buddy ended up there. He was doing woofing all around the country. So we finally got a place to go woofing at. Ended up being the Stony Brook cult, which other YouTubers have gone into and exposed and so on. And let me tell you something, those people are pretty crazy. They are very talented and very crazy. It's like when you think of cults, like they fit the bill. They definitely fit the bill. I don't think they're suicidal or like mass murderers, but maybe they are. I don't really know. Like they could be because they're pretty intense. It was pretty scary. We ran out of there one morning at like 4. We got our things into the car before they came to get us for their Bible study session, which was you know optional. But if you wanted breakfast, it wasn't optional, and they would come knocking at our door at like 5:30 in the morning to make sure that we come to the optional pre-breakfast Bible study, to tell us that we were awful sinners and so on. Anyway, by this point, we were living without, you know, obviously washing machines and dryers and showers for the most part, and it's freezing cold anyway, so it was hard to take a shower even whenever there was one. We didn't have water heating, any modern stuff in a car really, and not on a farm either, on a cult farm. So we were pretty disheveled, and we got married. We were very happy, and we got married November 14th. November 15th was the ceremony uh, that Eagle Bear did, the Apache ceremony, and we did a sweat lodge in a Nipi Lakota sweat lodge afterwards. And then we went back to our little cult until we ran out of there a couple days later. We got married and we were happy. And we weren't wearing fancy dresses or tuxedos or anything like that. Our honeymoon was at a cult, as I've mentioned. So, but a month and some change later, I got enlightened because I decided to dedicate my life to other people. And my wife was an instrumental part of that decision, being capable of making that decision and following through with it, which I'm still trying to do now, and I don't always do it perfectly at all. This is the bodhisattva. This is challenge mode. That's what I'm talking about. People mistake this. This is important to understand, that people mistake this as being spiritual is having to be perfect. If you're not perfect, then you're not a true spiritual guide or true spiritual teacher or true spiritual person, whatever it might be, true priest. And that's bullshit. Sorry to curse, but that's BS, because if you're not human, then your spirituality is not useful to us. We're humans, and we're interested in how to be better humans and how to enjoy more the human experience, and not just for ourselves but for everybody and for all beings, even non-humans, of course. So, you know, I could go way deeper into that, but I think you guys, I don't need to. You guys know it better than I could say it. Um, and we were pretty disheveled when I got enlightened. We had no money. We'd been kicked out of my parents' house. Things were pretty stressful. Didn't have a career plan, didn't have a college degree, still don't have a college degree, working on it. 33. I'm going pretty fast now that I've gotten in there. But at that time, the car I had was, on its way out. That was pretty much it. Existential crisis, what am I going to do? Is life worth it? Is any of my writing or any of my spiritual seeking ever going to amount to anything? Is enlightenment even real? Is God even real? Or is it just a cruel joke? People taking advantage of me? Is the whole ceremony thing, is that just a cult too? I was disillusioned, disappointed. I don't know if disillusioned is the word. I've been speaking Spanish for a long time, living here, so being here, so I forget English words. Actually, it's been like 8 years. Um, and when you get enlightened, you at that stage and you come back to challenge mode, it for me it was a clear choice, and I've always heard that's what I learned. It's probably why I experienced it this way, is that it's a clear choice to become enlightened, to be a private Buddha, to stay God, to be God and just be God and no other experience but God, which is great. Um, and I guess that's fine, but I it seemed like a trick, and I saw through it, and I knew there was nobody tricking me. It was just myself. It was a trick about what I really wanted, what was really in my heart, and what was in my heart was love. And love is for oneself, for sure, but it's for others, more importantly, and others back to one, reciprocal. That's love. I mean, obviously, when you think about it like that. So, all these other people out here, they're not awakened. This voice was saying to me in this dark nothingness. I didn't have a body, didn't have anything after the whole enlightenment show, the very end of it. Game over, ding, 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 like that movie, fantastic movie, Mr. Nobody. Watch that one. Great. Weird movie. You might have to watch it a couple times. You might not want to watch it a couple times. That's on you. Worth it. If you liked any of this content, you'll like that movie. Um, it's crazy. It's hard for me to like a movie and say that it's crazy. I want you to know that too. It's very difficult for a movie to actually be interesting to me after being enlightened a few years ago. It's 2024. Yeah, 10 years ago, a decade. It's taken me a decade to formalize it and to keep working on it on this challenge mode. And, it was like, do you really, all these people don't know about enlightenment. They don't know. They're probably never going to. And your mission, if you go back, is to try to bring them into this awakening. Like, okay, it's going to be extremely difficult. And guess what? Like, you're going to be right back in the same position. These old stinky Adidas sneakers that I had, those hemp all-star edition. They were like covered in cat pee and just couldn't get the smell out. It was just holes. But I love those things, and it was all I had. I didn't have any money, so what was I gonna do? And just disheveled and down, and existential crisis, warring with the emotion of being part of this community now and being married is a huge thing, and also being kicked out of my family, pretty much being kicked out of my house. Um, we had the intention to get married before then, or at least I certainly did, and I believe she had the hope that we would too. She didn't want to at first, being so far away from her family um, at that time, but it was a good time to do it. And I said, yeah, like it's an illusion. I said, why are you gonna go? The voice said, why are you gonna go back and do that? Like it's an illusion. It's not even real. Those other people aren't even real. It's not even real that there's other people. You're not even real in that world. Me, I'm not real. Not real. Not real. Uh, ow. Why does that hurt? Anyway, and I was like, yeah, come on. But even if it's not real, like, especially if it's not real, it's more meaningful to go back because it's all there is. Once you've flown through the entire universe a few times, maybe you'll realize that the human game is the only one that's really worth it, really worth playing. All these other games are part of the game, but the human one is what it's all about. I'm pro-human, 100%. Two-leggeds, the human race, we are important. We are beautiful. We are creatures that are made in the image of God, and we have great potential to bridge the gap between divine God and animal and creation, creator and creation. We are the bridge between them. We're more than the bridge too. We can be more than one thing at once. This the Trinity concept. And even if you don't like the Christian thing, a lot of people don't like the Christian thing because they don't really understand it. It's been presented to them in ways that make them not like it too, is a big factor. A lot of disappointment too for among people there, but it's real and it says all the same things if you really understand it for yourself, not for other people, but privately for yourself, like a true believer, a true knower of things that need to be known. Study it, learn it, then you can criticize it all you want, and you'll be better. You'll be a better critic because you know it. But chances are, once you actually understand it, you're not going to be criticizing it so much. You're going to be living your life by it because you now understand it. And maybe you'll help explain it in ways that heal the rift between us all religiously, socially, so on, culturally. But humanity is the point, I think I was about to go off on a tangent there, but humanity is the point of all of this, everything. Compassion, compassion. Compassion is a perspective in a moment to moment experience. And there's just so much more I can get into, but I'm going to end here. My wife and daughter are due back soon from ballet classes, and it's my night to put her to bed, so I'm going to get back into my fatherly duties. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you got a lot out of this, and there's a lot more to come. Please let me know other topics that you want me to talk about related to spirituality, to psychology. I'm a student. I'm not, licensed yet or graduated yet, but I've been a student my entire life of psychology. So, philosophy, I'm a aficionado. I love philosophy. I've read a lot. Whatever's on your mind or heart, reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and it really helps us out. Really helps us out. Helps me um, be sane and support my family doing what I'm able to do, what I'm capable of doing, and what I love to do. So that is my request. That's my prayer And that is my action as well. Prayer and action together. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Back to Truth Foundation podcast.